Okay, coming back from the closed session, I will reopen the meeting, and without objection, I will declare this meeting adjourned. I'm doing it wrong. Reopen the meeting.
President Benny.
Yes.
I think it would be appropriate to have a motion to
Okay.
reopen the meeting.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Thank you. I'll like to entertain a motion to reopen the meeting.
So moved.
Second?
Is there any discussion? All right, seeing none. All those in favor of reopening the meeting, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And the meeting is reopened, but without objection, I will declare this meeting adjourned. And we will move to our next meeting. So noting the time is 5:01 PM, I will call this regular meeting of the Minneapolis Park and Recreation Board for Wednesday, August 6th, 2025 to order. Secretary, will you please call the roll?
Commissioner Elper, absent. Commissioner Forney,
Here.
Commissioner Menz,
Here.
Commissioner Olson,
Here.
Commissioner Rucker,
Here.
Commissioner Schaefer,
Here.
Commissioner Thompson,
Here.
Vice President Musich, absent. President Benny,
Here.
you have a quorum.
Thank you. And just as I said previously, Commissioners Elper and Musich will not be joining us. And with that, the agenda is before us. I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved?
Is there-
Second?
Second, I heard a second. Okay, is there any discussion? Commissioner Schaefer?
Yes, I would like to make a motion to add a resolution of thanks to Dave Heil, who is a retiring president of the Friends of Loring Park.
Okay, great. Is there a second to that?
Second.
Okay. I would recommend that we put that on the consent items. So is there any other discussion? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor of the motion to add an item to the consent agenda, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. And now with now an amended agenda, we have the agenda before us. Is there any discussion? Any further discussion? No, seeing none, all those in favor of approving the agenda, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The agenda is approved. We have one set of minutes. Would somebody please move those for approval and read the date?
I will move the minutes of July 16th, 2025 for approval.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of approving the minutes of July 16th, 2025, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The minutes are approved. And with that, we're going to move right to reports of officers, and I know Superintendent Bangura has some things he wants to share with us tonight.
Absolutely. Thank you, President Benny and Commissioners. Again, it is a privilege to bring forward all the great work we do within the organization. And as for those that are not the first time, we reflect our strategic directions, and we talk to the board about how the work we're doing within our organization reflects our strategic directions and performance measures. So I will start right away with strategic direction A, act boldly for our climate future. Right along with the tree inspector on a bike, I know Jennifer's getting it up here, Deputy Superintendent. MPRB Forestry has a unique method for performing tree inspection work. They pedal it. That's right, they use bikes to do tree inspection, which is fantastic. Many a year ago, Forestry purchased 2 bikes via a grant, and the bikes have been rolling ever since. Currently, 2 of the tree inspectors in the Southwest Service Area, Casey Schneider and Brian Volz, use the bikes for their inspection work. Other service areas, such as downtown and regional, have also utilized the bikes. The inspectors plan the area that they will be focused on each day and utilize Forestry's database program to find and select sites that have been marked for inspection, either internally or externally. Then they plan their route and they start their inspections. Upon reaching the inspection site, they hop off their bikes, assess the tree and the nearby area, make an informed and educated decision on the next steps for the tree, if there are deemed necessary, and they record it in the database system. If the inspection was requested externally, the tree inspectors will call, email, or knock on the door to communicate their findings and any possible next steps with each request. While tree inspectors are performing these inspections, they are always on the lookout for anything that might require a closer assessment. Things like signs and symptoms of insect or pest infestation, pruning needs, possible planting locations, stacking needs, and trees damaged, to name a few. While it's important to remember that all NPRB tree inspectors are doing the same work, using the bikes as the main means of transportation provides some major benefits. It's clearly better for the environment, consuming fewer fossil fuels, and emitting less CO2 than when using trucks. It also provides a much better view of the trees, allows the inspectors to stay mobile throughout the day, which helps them stay healthier and helps reduce stress. All absolutely good benefits from exercise and spending time outdoors that everyone keeps talking about. Provides much more easier parking options and allows them to get to know the neighborhood much better. As they can see more and, when needed, move slower, easier than when using a vehicle. To account for the work that they do on the bikes, they utilize a combination of recorded site visits and a GPS tracking app that shows where they go throughout the day. In fact, between July 1st and July 24th, Casey and Brian have inspected over 115 miles of streets in the Southwest District on their bikes. Perhaps we'll see more tree inspectors on bikes in the future. Question mark. We'll see, hopefully. A big shout out to Casey Snyder and Brian Voles for letting us all ride along with you and to get a better understanding of a day in the work of a tree inspector. Pretty cool. That was long, but pretty amazing. So basically, they're on bikes having a great time being in nature, and it's absolutely amazing, and getting healthy, which is great. So thank you to both. It's incredible work. Strategic direction B, cultivate each community's place and honor cultural traditions in Minneapolis parks. The DID and NPRB Forestry partner for watering party at Curie Park. The Forestry Department, in partnership with the Downtown Improvement District, hosted a tree watering party at Curie Park again this year. We had a group of approximately 20 kids come help us with the task. Both newly planted and mature trees were watered, and the kids had a great time while learning and taking care of trees is important. Strategic direction C, implement quality youth and intergenerational programs. 49th annual corn roast at Longfellow Park. Over 1,000 people came together for the 49th annual corn roast at Longfellow Park. This vibrant event featured music, games, and a strong sense of community. The highlight of the day was settling 1,000 ears of roasted corn and the delicious lineup of food trucks, including the Habanero Taco, Nashville Coupe, and Parkway Pizza, offering something for everyone. The park was filled with laughter, community connections, and fun. Families enjoyed face painting, bubble station, archery expo, pop-up parks, cornhole competition, and ask an arborist activities. There's a common theme for trees, right? That's pretty cool. It was a day filled with smiles, connections, and the kind of community spirit that makes our parks so special. Almost 50 years they've been doing this. I remember when I was living in Longfellow, my wife and my son went to that and we had a blast. It was so cool. So wonderful, wonderful event. Truly neighborhood. Strategic direction D, care for park assets to meet evolving needs and practices. Boom Island parking hours change. Asset management staff from the Northeast Service Area maintenance crew and the paint shop worked with park police customer service to change the hours of no parking at Boom Island from 10:30 p.m. To 6 a.m. to 9 o'clock p.m. 10:30 p.m. to 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. to 6 a.m. following the shooting there on June 1st. Starting Monday, June 23rd, the park entrance road and parking lot close at 9 o'clock p.m. Strategic direction E, steward our natural resources. Goat browsing for buckthorn control at Theodore Wirth. NPRB Environmental Management has contracted with the Diversity Landworks to control buckthorn at Theodore Wirth through the prescribed goat browsing. The goats are browsing 3 management units around the east side and the southeast corner of South Theodore Wirth Park, comprising a total of nearly 10 acres. These areas have been highly invaded by small to medium-sized buckthorn, making them ideal locations to utilize goat browsing as an initial control method. These areas are scheduled to be browsed by goats for 3 years each after which they will be replanted and seeded with native tree, shrub, and ground cover species as part of a continued management effort. It's really cool. If you have a chance to see it, it's pretty cool to see. So wonderful, wonderful. All right, I'm going to quickly deviate here to North Commons, this amazing day we had at North Commons. A groundbreaking celebration at North Commons was held on Tuesday, July 29th. The event drew more than 100 community members, elected officials, and others to hear comments from me, Commissioner Thompson, U.S. Representative Ilhan Omar, Minnesota Senate President Bobby Joe Champion, Minnesota Representative Fu Lee, Mayor Jacob Fry, and the Minneapolis Parks Foundation Board President Jasmine Russell, reiterating their support for the project and emphasizing the importance of the expanded rec center and new water park to the Northside community. It was an incredible, amazing day, and I can't say enough about it. What I have in front of me, too, I want to just describe is one highlight from the park event was when Representative Omar presented me with what I believe to be the Park Board's first congressional record. This written frame document honoring North Commons Park is now included in the official record of the proceedings and debates of the United States 119th Congress. I want to absolutely thank all the Park Board, our commissioners, everyone that attended, the Minnesota Parks Foundation staff who worked hard to make this event absolutely amazing and successful. And here, I won't read it all, but this is from honoring North Commons Park, the Honorable Ilhan Omar of Minnesota in the House of Representatives, Wednesday, July 23rd, 2025. And she actually read this on the floor. So it's a pretty amazing thing. And I think it is the first we've had in 143 history of our organization. So an incredible privilege. I'm going to keep my office for a little bit, but then I'm going to make sure it gets around the park system. And so people can see this. A pretty amazing thing. So congratulations to that. This is absolutely incredible moment. So thank you to our Representative Omar. Youth Fall Sports Update, the last thing to share with you all. On August 4th, a total of 2,526 youth have registered for fall sports through our centralized system. This includes soccer, flag football, tackle football, and volleyball. Late registration is being accepted where space is available, and we expect additional registrations, especially for volleyball, which remains open through August 15th. We continue to coordinate with partner agencies to finalize the league structure for the agency league. Leagues with 3 or more partner agency teams will constitute a league, while divisions with fewer teams will have participants register in the regular recreation league. This model was confirmed on July 29th, meeting with the partner agency teams, coalition, and will be reassessed before the winter season. Based on current team counts and over 400 participants in partner agency teams, we will exceed last year's total of 2,875 participants for our fall youth sports program. We're on a good path. So with that, President Benny and Commissioners, if you have any questions, we are available. And I cannot say how much I'm proud of our organization, the work they do every day. And thank you for your support.
Thank you. And I think we might have a question. Before I take the question or we move to questions, I'd like to just notice that this read on the floor in Washington, D.C. means we're making a move into Washington, D.C. They think they have the best park system in the country there, but we're now going, so I'm just saying, watch out, Washington. Commissioner Menz.
Maybe the park board should take on Washington in a lot of other ways as well. We're strong leadership here. So I have a question about Boom Island Park. So does that mean that the overtime hours or the policing, I know that there was a sort of a change in the policing options over there. Does that mean that we won't have to use overtime or there's just a new flow going? I'm fully in support of the 9 p.m. closure, but just trying to figure out what the status of that might be.
Commissioner Mans, President Benny, yes, I think that right now, based on the numbers, we still are going to have, obviously, eyes on the park. We're still going to have CCVP involved there. We're still going to have patrols that go through it. But yes, it changes sort of that dynamic of officers being there. We had that 2-week period where there was more attention, but this is an effort to get to a point to where Boom Island is changed hours, and we're going to adjust accordingly with eyes on the park and attention to the park. But yes.
Yeah, and that whole corridor between there and even Main Street, I get a lot of calls on that too, around like just maybe that being a community policing option. I know that Chief Ojato's on it too, though. Thanks.
Yeah, and Commissioner Menz, we do also work with Councilmember Rainville He has a program that I think is right now within council, within the city council, where we have some volunteers, particularly Somali mothers, who even previous years have been on the Stone Arch Bridge. We're working with him right now to acquire a golf cart that we're going to work with him on, and they will be able to move between not only Father Hennepin and Stone Arch Bridge, but also then go into Boom Island and do some real activation with community around Eyes On there. And we think it's a really positive thing, because it's not just about police, it's about community. And so this is just another wonderful way working with our city, with our council member, to really put eyes on and work together in community to, really focus on safety. So we're very excited about that.
That's really exciting. Thanks for finding real positive solution to community policing during that time, so after a tragedy.
All right. All right, seeing no more questions for the superintendent, let's move on to reports of appointees to outside boards, commissions, or committees. Does anybody have a report this evening? Commissioner Thompson.
Thank you. Since our last meeting, we had both a meeting, connection with the audit committee and also the planning commission. And I've been racking my brain if anything was parks pertinent. And actually, there are going to be some potential changes to the 2040 plan that would help facilitate stormwater and green space, which was kind of a move toward that I've been pushing toward in general. So as I was racking my brain, I was like, yeah, there was actually kind of something that will impact us. So thanks.
Thank you. Other comments from appointments? Okay. All right, well, great. Let's go ahead and move to the consent business. Would somebody like to either move the consent items, or
Can I pull one item?
you would like to pull one item?
Yes.
Yes.
2025-155.
155?
Yep.
And anybody else like to pull anything?
I would like to pull the resolution of thanks for a public reading.
Okay. Okay, those two items have been pulled. Would somebody like to move the remaining
I will
items?
remove the remaining resolutions on the consent agenda as a slate.
Second?
Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of that motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. I think we should take Commissioner Schaefer's item first.
Sure. This is a resolution thanking Dave Heil for his contribution of 14 years of volunteer service as the president of the Friends of Loring Park Board, benefiting the residents of Minneapolis and the Minneapolis Park and Recreation Board. Whereas Dave has been an active member of the Friends of Loring Park Board since moving from the suburbs to Loring Park almost 2 decades ago. Whereas Dave has led many volunteer initiatives in Loring Park, including the annual garden party kickoff and brunch, the monthly Friends events to assist MPRB staff in maintenance of the award-winning Garden of Seasons, and the planting of the donated cherry trees down the entrance pathway of the park. Whereas Dave has been a supporting advocate for funding the maintenance and care of the legacy Loring Park trees. Whereas Dave has been a conduit of education and input for the community around the Minneapolis Park and Recreation Board initiatives in Loring Park, including the Loring Park Long Range Plan, new pickleball and tennis courts, repaving the pedestrian paths, improved shuffleboard court, and new playground. Whereas Dave helped coordinate the current Burger Fountain fundraising initiative, including the original MOU with the Minneapolis Park and Recreation Board, was a member of the planning committee for Burger fundraising events, and successfully testified at the state legislature for Minnesota Legacy and Arts Culture funding. Whereas Dave has always been an advocate for promoting Minneapolis Park Recreation Board programming at the Loring Park Arts Center, including the sing-alongs and expanded senior programming. Whereas Dave has always been a friendly face, encouraging others to get involved in giving back to Loring Park, and has the ability to bring people together, connecting neighbors as friends. Whereas Dave retired from the role of president of the Friends of Loring Park Board in May of 2025. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Minneapolis Park and Recreation Board expresses its heartfelt thanks to Dave Heil for his generosity of time, talents, and service to the residents of Loring Park and Greater Minneapolis, and especially to the Minneapolis Park and Recreation System.
Thank you. So will you now move that? And
I will now move this resolution of thanks.
I need a second.
Second.
Is there any further discussion or any discussion? Okay, I'll just say this So it's a nice honor, and another amazing person in our community that does amazing things for our community. So with that, let's go ahead and take this resolution to a vote. All those in favor of this resolution, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. We have another one that was pulled from,
Yeah. I'll move Resolution 2025-155, resolution accepting the $454,407 in grant funding from the Met Council to fund a tree removal and replacement program to establish a more diverse community forest able to better withstand disease and forest pests within Minneapolis census block groups with vulnerable residents and those affected of urban heat islands.
is there a second?
Second.
I heard a second from
Second.
Commissioner Thompson. Okay, is there discussion? Commissioner Menz?
Yeah, I just wondered if there's anybody in the room who might be able to speak to this resolution and whether or not it is this additional money to the budget, or is it part of the tree planting budget and how it relates to, you know, maybe our initiative with city trees or whatever we call it now? I was just trying to figure out if it's more money or if it's the same or if it's already budgeted in.
Welcome, Director McMaster.
All right, good evening, President Benny, Commissioner Menz. I can answer that question. It is additional funding targeting historically marginalized communities within our city.
So the money is going to be directed specifically to those communities. How much of the tree budget is already directed to those communities in our general budget?
That's going to take a little bit more diving into, but I can get you some answers on that. Generally, what we do is we spread that across the city equitably, but I don't have that exact number tonight.
Okay. And then is the Met, I wasn't sure when I was reading through the documentation. So does the Met Council, could this be part of our tree, like if our tree budget is $1 million and we now have $1.454 million, is it possible for it to replace some of the other money that we might be using? So this is a budget time, so I'm trying to figure out where money is coming from, and if we're having additional money for tree planting, that's great. But do we need $454,000 or do we need $254,000? And directing it in a way that's effective for the budget numbers.
Well, just to be clear, the grant isn't just for tree planting. A large portion of this grant is to remove stumps in those areas and open up planting sites. So a portion of it is stump grinding, which I think everybody knows we have a pretty good backlog on that. And then coming behind to fill the other need, which is tree planting. And we've been having to be very creative in funding that year on year since we've lost the tree levy funds. So in fact, this year, between the carbon credit program, another grant, and some donations, we were able to make up that difference. So I think this is kind of the approach that we've been taking year on year to go out and be creative and find funding and then match that funding to as much good work as we can possibly do. The need will always be there. I mean, we're removing and replacing trees every year. So I don't know that we have this set target, like we need to plant X amount. It's just based on how many we remove on that year.
Okay. Thank you for those answers to that question. And then what was the time, the funds need to be utilized by, I can't remember, I'm not looking at it right now, but 2027, 2026?
Yeah, we've got an extended period, but we're looking to utilize all that funding in this year. So
2026 or
2027, I believe, on that.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much.
Yep, thank you.
And welcome to the board. Welcome.
Oh, thank you.
Okay. Are there other questions or discussion? Okay. Seeing none, all those in favor of Resolution 2025-155, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? That motion carries.
On behalf of the Planning Committee, I'd like to move Resolution 2025-139, a resolution approving the concept plan for Cedar Avenue Field Park improvements and amending the Cedar Avenue Field Park concept plan as approved in the South Service Area Park Plan.
Second.
Okay, is there any discussion? Okay, seeing no lights, all those in favor of approving Resolution 2025-139, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries.
I'd like to move Resolution 2025-142, resolution approving the concept plan for North Loop Park.
Second.
So that's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of Resolution 2025-142, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries.
On behalf of the Administration and Finance Committee, I will move Resolution 2025-147, resolution accepting the nomination and initiating the public hearing with process to rename 28th Street Tot Lot to Chickadee Park as proposed by Whittier Alliance.
Second?
Is there any discussion? Okay. Seeing none, all those in favor of approving Resolution 2025-147, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. Okay. So we're going to move to the discussion items on our agenda next, but I'll just mention to the people that are gathered here, we do have our open time at 5:30. So when the clock strikes 5:30, we'll stop what we're doing, turn to open time, and then after open time comments are complete, we'll return to our agenda. So with that, I think we have a couple of minutes to begin the discussion item related to the Upper Harbor Community Performing Arts Center from Ms. Julie Aldrich. Thank you.
Good evening, President Abene and Commissioners. My name is Julie Aldrich, Design Project Manager representing the MPRB on the Upper Harbor Redevelopment and Park Project. Joining me tonight are project partners, Hillary Holmes, Senior Project Coordinator with CPED representing City of Minneapolis, and Faith Kuman, Senior Associate with NTH Inc. representing the Port of Minneapolis, First Avenue, and the Minnesota Orchestra. Together tonight, we will introduce the Upper Harbor Community Performing Arts Center, or CPAC. The purpose of our discussion item tonight is to share the progress updates on the Upper Harbor Redevelopment Project, an introduction to the Community Performing Arts Center, the relationship of the CPAC to the MPRB's park and parkway facilities, ongoing work to define MPRB and CPAC needs and obligations as long-term neighbors, and to provide an opportunity for questions and concerns to be identified. The MPRB's role as a committed partner in this multi-agency and developer collaboration has been critical to the overall Upper Harbor redevelopment project and the park and parkway projects. These partnerships have been vital in leveraging diverse expertise, resources, and perspectives to create a more sustainable, efficient, and community-responsive outcome. In recent years, numerous legal processes and agreements have been executed, solidifying the MPRB's interests, role, and responsibilities in long-term partnerships and operations at the Upper Harbor. As the MPRB's Park and First Avenue CPAC projects are now moving closer to implementation, partners are planning the details and the logistics of day-to-day operations.
Yes, thank you. And we'll pause there. And we'll go ahead and move to open time, and then we'll reconvene that. So first, I'll start by reading the open time rules. Thank you to those of you who have come to speak during tonight's open time. The board's open time rules are as follows. I will call on people from the speaker list only. Names are added to the speaker list by calling in before 3 p.m. on the day of the meeting or by adding it in person at the board meeting before 5:30 p.m. The allotted time for all speakers shall not exceed 15 minutes. We have 8 speakers, so we will do 2 minutes per person. Time may not be transferred to someone else, and please watch the timer and stay within your allotted time. This is an opportunity for the speakers to address the board. We are listening, but we will not respond. That said, please don't hesitate to contact any of the commissioners for dialogue and further discussion. To protect the privacy of individuals, please refrain from commenting on specific personnel issues or pending litigation. Discriminatory or harassing words directed at anyone will not be tolerated, and each speaker is asked to state their name and the neighborhood they live in or their address if they're comfortable. So with that, the first name on the list is William Munich, followed by Jim Halber. William. Welcome.
My name is William Munich. I live over in the Theodore Worth neighborhood. And this.
And my name is Bill Neunschwander, and I live in Bloomington, but I have a business, been residing in Minneapolis for over 20 years.
Okay, so we have William signed up, and so William should speak. That's how it works, I'm sorry.
Well, I'm the only one that can speak?
I think if it's your name, I think so. Is that correct?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm here with Human on a Stick. We've been doing, or Bill has been doing Segway tours here for 22 years, and he has a really strong safety record as other Segway businesses are going out of business because of their, like people getting injured, and we've been one of the only ones that have been able to maintain an insurance policy. And so we have also had a history of collaborating with the park board. They were originally doing tours around Calhoun, and we were asked to move over to along the river, and we did that. And we would also, so we have brought a lot of people over there and kind of improved the area around there. And we would like to open up a discussion to interact with and collaborate with the park board to, and possibly have like a revenue share to bring in renewable energy to the area, like maybe set up underneath 3rd Avenue Bridge or around 3rd Avenue Bridge, some renewable energy like solar panels that would charge Segways, and help to improve the ride shares within the area. So that's like scooter sharing that's kind of dangerous right now. We want to build up a physical device that we could bring down to like the size of a deck of cards within the next few years that we would have on a lot of devices and make it safer for a lot of people and reduce the cost burden on the medical system within Minneapolis. Yeah, that's what I got.
Okay, all right, well, thank you. Jim Halber, followed by Frank Jackson.
As you may, most of you know, I'm James Halber, President of Phelps Activities Council, here with some of our Phelps family. The PAC is a Phelps Park, South Minneapolis, neighborhood-based 501c3, providing support to help provide structured activities for the youth in Phelps Park community for almost 20 years. PAC had a fundraising agreement in place with MPRB in 2022, renewed in 2023 for a Phelps Park field resurfacing project. In just over 2 years, PAC raised about $750,000 pledged toward the $1.8 million project from donors that include NFL, Minnesota Vikings, Adam Thielen Foundation, Minnesota Twins, Minneapolis Foundation, Yellow Tree Corp, Local Incentive Support Corporation, and more. However, the MPRB did not renew the fundraising agreement with PAC when it expired in May of 2024. It needs to be renewed. The fundraising agreement was back on the MPRB agenda to get approved on September 18th, 2024, and then MPRB President Meg Forney pulled it off the agenda, and when I questioned it, she said, as you know, there's a 3-year-old Hennepin County Youth Sports Grant in the amount of some $500,000 that is due to expire if not activated. It would have been fiscally irresponsible for us to forego that guaranteed funding. Renewing the fundraising agreement for a second time would have jeopardized these critical funds. Well, actually, the Hennepin County grant is $250,000. or 257 to be exact. Our NFL matching grant is the other 250 to equal the 500,000 that I would say would be irresponsible to let slide. Now, the Hennepin County grant is extended to the year end to 2026. And now we can't hardly get a meeting for a donation agreement. Now, in all my years, I've never seen anything like this, to forego funding efforts to help inner city youth get an equitable playing surface. Superintendent Bangor, we've been waiting almost 2 months for a meeting to finalize our donation agreement and to continue on forward with this project. Commissioner Manns, Commissioner Rucker, you've worked with youth in the park. The youth need your support. Let's get this donation agreement ASAP.
Thank you. I'm calling Frank Jackson, followed by Marcus Nolan.
Hello, my name is Frank Jackson. I'm a current resident of North Minneapolis here over in Theodore Worth Park area. I coach at Phelps Park. I was born and raised in South Minneapolis. A lot of the memories that I have there from my childhood, from playing football with the current NFL Hall of Famer Larry Fitzgerald to Holy Angels, Troy Bell, who runs park over there. I just want to say that going to the park right now, the fields are beautiful because the rain and whatever is keeping them the way they are. So it really doesn't matter to me if it's a irrigation system that goes in or if it's AstroTurf. By the time October hits, my kids are breathing in nothing but dirt and dust, and it's not feasible for us to practice there. So when Coach Jim pitched this idea that this board was on the table, I felt it was for me to speak that giving my boys a place to play that is not breathing in dust, that's causing them to cough up dust after practice, will be beneficial for their health and beneficial for the community. So, thank you.
Thank you. Marcus Nolan, followed maybe by John Jones, but he might be crossed off the list, I can't tell. Oh, both are off? Thank you. Okay, Tracy Murray, followed by Diane Sec.
How y'all doing? My name is Tracy Murray, and basically he just said what I was going to say. So about the breathing in the dirt and the dust, and I think we just deserve a better field than what we have. The kids do, you know. I've been with Phelps for anywhere between 13, 14 years, and I was born and raised over North Minneapolis. Now, I believe we're the only park so far that I haven't seen being reconstructed as far as our playground at Phelps. But the field is really bad. It's just terrible, and I believe the kids deserve a better field to play on. And that'll be it.
Thank you. Diane Sec, followed by Jay Michael. Diane? Would you state your name?
My name is Shek Diane, and I'm of Minneapolis. I've been playing for Phelps Parks for about 4 years. Phelps Field has always been bad and has always had a bad playing surface since I've been playing on it. You all need to stop ignoring our efforts to get to the field resurfaced. We need a donation agreement.
Monisha, or will you state your name?
My name is Jim Michael Broadway, and I think that Phelps Field needs a better field for like future players and current players, so we can have better health and a better football experience.
Thank you. The last name on the list is Monisha Walters.
My name is Monisha Walters. I'm a volunteer coach with Phelps, as well as my husband for the past over 7 years. So I have some of my children here. 2 of my boys play football. Daughter plays sports as well. I'm here because we really need the meeting. My husband's one of the contractors, and he's been working really hard to try to get the conditions of the field repaired. It's been over 2 months without any contact, as well as over a year that this money has been sitting. Professionally, I am a physical therapist, so I understand the importance of like field conditions. We can't even host home football games or soccer. There are kids that play soccer at the field as well. So I think the immediacy of at least sitting at the table and discussing the field is important, and it is important now because there's been a lot of people that spend a lot of time helping to raise this money. And as a parent and as a person who lives in Minneapolis, I like to try to contribute to the cause as well. So there are lots of people that want to help outside of Park and Rec, but we need you guys, and we need you now because, as the kids say, I have videos of the dust. I mean, the kids, we can't even practice at our own park. I would even say earlier than October, to be quite frank with you. So again, that's why I'm here, and I'm hoping that you guys would at least sit at the table, because over 2 months, over a year of money sitting there is not a good thing, and I hope that you guys do that.
Thank you. All right, and that was our last speaker. Thank you all for coming, and with that, I'll close open time, and we'll move back to the discussion item related to the Upper Harbor Terminal Community Performing Arts Center. Ms. Aldrich.
Thank you, President Abene and Commissioners. I'll pick up just prior to where I left off. As the MPRB's Park and First Avenue CPAC projects are now moving closer to implementation, partners are planning the details and logistics of day-to-day operations. Key next steps for both parties are to memorialize their needs and obligations in a contractual agreement. Following this presentation, a resolution requesting a first amendment to the MPRB City Parkway MOU, originally approved in 2023, will be presented this evening as a next and needed step in the process of further formalizing operations agreements. Following an amended Parkway MOU, the MPRB and POM anticipate completion of negotiations toward a contractual agreement within the next 1 to 2 months, with an anticipated return to the board in September. That agreement will define the interests, needs, roles, and responsibilities of each party as they relate to the long-term operations of both the POM and park facilities. Tonight's presentation introduces the framework for that agreement. I'll also provide a brief construction update on the MPRB's park progress, which is an exciting part of our presentation for me. So as we all know, construction began in fall of 2024. Work is continuing throughout 2025 at an accelerated pace, with substantial completion anticipated late fall of this year. Pavements and site walls are installed, walkway lights, landscape planters, and site seating are currently underway. The regional trail, landscaping beeline, and native seed is estimated for this fall, and park opening and ribbon cutting anticipated for late spring, early summer of 2026. Following the Phase 1 Parkway Road infrastructure, the MPRB's new Upper Harbor Park will be the first development to complete implementation at the Upper Harbor site. The CPAC is anticipated to be the second, and at this point, I'll hand off to Hillary Holmes. Ped.
Thank you, Julie. Good evening, President, Commissioners. Thank you for the opportunity to present to you this evening on the Upper Harbor redevelopment. As Julie stated, I'm Hillary Holmes with the City of Minneapolis, Community Planning Economic Development Department, and the project manager for the overall redevelopment of the site. MPRB and the city are longtime partners on the Upper Harbor site. As many of you know, while redevelopment planning began in 2015, the groundwork by the Park Board and the city to transform the Upper Harbor Terminal started well before that. In 2017, with the selection of a master developer, the partnership grew to include the development team led by United Properties for private development and First Avenue Productions for the outdoor amphitheater now known as the Community Performing Arts Center. Since then, First Avenue Productions, in partnership with the Minnesota Orchestra, formed Port of Minneapolis LLC, a nonprofit entity to develop and operate the Community Performing Arts Center. We are joined tonight by project and partner representatives. The Upper Harbor is reconnecting and opening up the riverfront to the north side. It is an extension of the McKinley neighborhood while serving as a regional destination and providing regional level amenities. After a decade plus of visioning and planning, we are now in implementation. The redevelopment of the Upper Harbor has investment and support from the organizations and entities listed here, as well as others, particularly the state of Minnesota, which awarded a $15 million infrastructure grant that the city and MPRB shared for our current projects. After years of engagement and collaboration between the city, MPRB, and development team, in 2021, the City Council approved the coordinated plan for redevelopment as the Park Board approved the park concept plan. As a result of this collective effort, the Upper Harbor will connect North Minneapolis to the Mississippi River, retain public ownership of the land, provide and create new affordable housing attainable to current North Minneapolis residents, sustainable revenue streams invested back into the north side, opportunities for local businesses and entrepreneurs, and living wage jobs. We will build a new regional riverfront park and trails, as you well know, a community performing arts center. We will repair and restore through environmental remediation, restoration of the shoreline, and district and regional stormwater management. Project partners have coordinated through site planning, site work, and now construction. Individual developments will go through entitlements and land use approvals. The first phase of development includes the regional park, affordable housing, and the Performing Arts Center. The full build-out, as represented here, will take decades. Public realm and infrastructure improvements support access to the site and allow for redevelopment to accommodate the transition from the site from a barge shipping terminal to mixed-use development. The public investments to date by the state, city, MPRB, and Mississippi Watershed Management Organization have prepared the site for public access to the riverfront and private development. The public realm improvements displayed here provide a connected transportation system and public utilities, prioritize safe and convenient pedestrian and bicycle connections, and offer a river-oriented experience with innovative stormwater solutions. Phase 1 street and utility work was completed in 2024. In July of this year, last month, the City Council appropriated $3 million for Phase 2 of West River Road North, as depicted on this graphic. The city is beginning design on Phase 2 with construction planned for 2026. This will complete the new parkway on the Upper Harbor site. MWMO is another key project partner and funder. Both city and MPRB projects include elements of the district stormwater system, and individual developments will continue to build out the system as they come online. The South Regional Treatment System is currently under construction. Since 2022, we have completed demolition, grading, and environmental remediation, as well as Phase 1 public infrastructure. Upper Dowling from Lindale across 94 to Washington, Lower Dowling from Washington to the new West River Road North, West River Road North from the north end of the site to beyond the main park space, and 33rd Street North from 2nd Street to a roundabout at West River Road North. Excel completed relocation of overhead high transmission power lines on site, and the city transferred Parcel 2 to MPRB. In 2024, we celebrated together the ribbon cutting for the street utility project and groundbreaking for the park. Looking ahead in fall 2025, the Performing Arts Center will break ground and the South Regional Treatment System will be complete. In 2026, as Julie stated, the park will open to the public. I'd like to take this moment to acknowledge the changes that we see on site. While this has been years in the making, the transformation over the past few years is pretty incredible. And it's thanks to your leadership and support and the hard work of MPRB staff to continue to move this forward. As with the overall Upper Harbor redevelopment, the Community Performing Arts Center project has been through multiple iterations through our collective years of engagement, site planning, and design. What you will hear about tonight is the result of years of continued collaboration and coordination by all partners to deliver a once-in-a-generation opportunity for the North Side and the region. There are multiple community benefits that the redevelopment of Upper Harbor will deliver to the North Side, and that's certainly true of both the park and the Community Performing Arts Center. In recognition of this, as you know, in 2020, the state of Minnesota awarded the city of Minneapolis a $12.5 million bond-funded grant for the Community Performing Arts Center. For the CPAC, these benefits include vendor and employment opportunities and career pathways, community programming, and a $3 per ticket contribution deposited into a community fund to be managed and administered by the African American Community Development Corporation in partnership with Port of Minneapolis through a community benefits agreement. To date, the CPAC project has been through entitlements and city land use approvals. The city will continue to own the property. Through a redevelopment and funding agreement, POM will develop and construct the facility, and through a lease and use agreement, POM will operate the facility as the CPAC. In July, the project reached the milestone when City Council approved a package of actions to advance the CPAC. I will now introduce Faith Kuman, presenting on behalf of Port of Minneapolis, to share more about this project. Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you, Hillary, Julie, and commissioners. I'm Faith Kuman with NTH, the CPAC owner's representative. The CPAC owner is the Port of Minneapolis, which is a partnership of First Avenue and the Minnesota Orchestra. Representatives from each organization are here behind me. I'm here to talk about the CPAC venue and its event transportation management plan. And I would like to congratulate the Park Board for being the first ones to break ground at Upper Harbor, and we hope to follow you soon. About the venue, the Community Performing Arts Center will be an outdoor amphitheater with an 8,000 person capacity. The northern courtyard you see here in the foreground will feature food trucks by local vendors and beverages also available for purchase. The venue includes a multi-purpose building for year-round community events with 197 person capacity. As Hillary noted, we spent the first half of the year working on our term sheets and our event transportation management plan, and we received approval on July 24th from the City Council of these terms, along with a mayoral signature. Now we're seeking the approval of a good neighbor agreement with the Park Board in September so that we can start construction. In 2026, the project will be under construction the entire year, while we will also work on a traffic control plan. In 2027, we anticipate construction to be complete in the spring, with a grand opening and the first concert season to follow. Sorry. Okay. The purpose of the Event Transportation Management Plan, or ETMP, is to define the transportation needs and strategies used to manage travel to and from the CPAC venue. Neither the Upper Harbor development nor the area around the CPAC have sufficient parking capacity to accommodate the anticipated number of people at CPAC events. Therefore, the ETMP provides recommendations outlining how to get people in and out of the venue as quickly and efficiently as possible. Collaboration is critical to the success of the ETMP. The agencies and organizations listed here had a role in developing, evaluating, and refining the plan we have to date. There will be two major event types, commercial ticketed events by First Avenue or the Minnesota Orchestra, and community events. We anticipate approximately 90 to 100 events per year, including up to 54 commercial ticketed events eligible for an amplified sound permit, and up to approximately 45 community events. The outdoor season will run May through October. Approximately half of the events will occur on weekdays and the other half of the events will occur on weekends. We anticipate over half the commercial events will be near capacity with around 6,000 to 8,000 people, and a variety of events that are between 1,500 to 6,000 people. The community events are anticipated to be under 1,500 people and may include some events in the multi-purpose building that will be under 200. For the ETMP projected mode share, it estimates that the mode share will be approximately 9% biking or scootering, 2% walking, 1% transit, 38% ride share and event parking, and about 50% shuttle buses. For venue patrons biking, there's a new shared path along Dowling Avenue from the west that extends over I-94 across Washington and down west to West River Road. This will connect to the main bicycle parking area, the small yellow triangle at the northern part of the site, with 216 permanent stalls just north of the venue. On the southern side, there are bikeway improvements planned for North 2nd Street that will connect to the shared use path on 33rd Avenue. This leads to a sidewalk along the shared drive, which is the road adjacent to the railroad, where the overflow bike parking will have another 500 stalls. People taking transit will essentially be pedestrians on this map, as bus stops are about a mile away to the west and to the south. People walking will likely travel on Dowling from the west or on 2nd to 33rd from the south. The CPAC venue includes a rideshare and parking lot located approximately a third of a mile to the venue between Washington Avenue and I-94. The rideshare area will include 74 spaces dedicated to pickup and drop-off with signed space numbers. The general parking area includes 213 spaces of limited parking available for purchase with a ticket. The venue's planning shuttle bus service, similar to what you might envision at the State Fair, from a remote parking lot, location there to be determined. At the site, the shuttles will enter from 33rd Avenue at the roundabout, travel northbound on the Phase 2 portion of the parkway, take a left onto the shared drive just south of the venue, and proceed to the pickup and drop-off area along the north-south leg of the shared drive. The southern part of the shared drive can be used for staging during events, allowing buses to travel along the parkway once more to immediately go to the pickup area after an event. An early version of the ETMP had contemplated clockwise travel. However, it resulted in the pedestrians crossing in front of buses and insufficient queuing space along the future industrial parcels, just south of the venue. The revised configuration you see here with counterclockwise travel results in a safer and more efficient operation where the bus-pedestrian conflicts are eliminated. For the shuttle bus operations, the portion of the shared drive has sufficient space for guest queuing just south of the CPAC facility with extra wide sidewalks here and along the west side of the north-south segment of the shared drive. Temporary fencing will be used here to help create orderly lines and also allow the bicyclists to exit. There will be an ADA loading area just south of the CPAC venue along that east-west segment of the shared drive. With this revised configuration, the crowd management is optimized as the space available for guest queuing is so much wider and longer on the western side due to utility easements and the jog in the western property line. By splitting the two largest mode shares, the shuttle buses and the rideshare passengers, so that one goes to the south of the CPAC and the other goes to the north of the CPAC, it reduces the size of the crowds to a more manageable number of people in both locations. There will be traffic control agents who will be responsible for helping to direct vehicle traffic and minimize conflicts between shuttle buses, private vehicles, pedestrians, and bicyclists. Traffic control agents will be contracted by the CPAC venue. They will be located at 2nd Street North and 33rd Avenue, at Washington Dowling, at the CPAC parking lot entrance, and at the parking lot exit, and two along West River Road, one at Dowling Avenue and another one near the entrance to the shared drive. The last two locations may be staffed by Park Police or by Park Board traffic control agents. The most common time frame for the commercial ticket events is anticipated to be in the evenings, with some afternoon or full-day events more likely occurring on weekends. For an evening event, gates would open at 4:30 and shuttles would begin arriving shortly thereafter. Events would likely begin at 6 p.m. and all events will conclude no later than 10 p.m. After each event ends, we anticipate shuttles to conclude approximately an hour later. For the commercial event management, transportation information will be provided with ticket purchase, including directions for biking, walking, and transit, information about shuttle bus tickets available for purchase, and parking space reservations also available for purchase. There will be crowd management and wayfinding provided before and after an event, with an estimated 20 to 40 staff on site as ushers and ticket takers. There is anticipated to be another 40 staff providing security on site as well. For cleanup, all guests are required to dispose of any cups, food, and trash at the exits. Additional trash cans will also be placed along the sidewalk outside the venue, including along the walk to the parking lot and in the shuttle bus waiting area. As Hillary noted, we will be working closely with our community partner, the African American Community Development Corporation. The Port of Minneapolis committed to a community benefits strategy where $3 from every ticket goes into a community fund that AACDC will manage. This fund can be used for community events, performing or visual arts, job training, and other community supports. For the community use of the CPAC venue, events will be coordinated through the Port of Minneapolis. We anticipate most of these events to be 1,500 people or less. The transportation can include a mix of biking, walking, rideshare, and parking at the CPAC parking lot. For the proposed Good Neighbor Agreement, we believe that communication, cooperation, and collaboration are essential to working together. In this agreement, we are proposing coordination meetings between the Port of Minneapolis, the City of Minneapolis, and the Park Board, including one prior to the start of each season to review the annual calendar, and another after each season to debrief on how the season went. For the first year, we would like to have monthly coordination meetings to learn from events and course correct as needed. As part of this agreement, the Port of Minneapolis is offering to provide funds for Park Board staff, including 2 police officers during events and 1 coordinator during events and coordination meetings. The negotiations of this agreement are ongoing, but we believe the most important part is developing a collaborative process for addressing operations, because we're not going to solve every single operational detail at this time. What we need to solve is how to create a robust process for working together in partnership to address operational issues as they arise. The ETMP is intended to be a living document, and we look forward to revising it together in partnership between the Port of Minneapolis, the Park Board, and the city as we move forward during construction and after the first events take place. We hope the Good Neighbor Agreement can memorialize the process for working together now and in the future. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Faith and Hillary. Related to the CPAC, MPRB staff have identified key considerations for managing our park and our parkway infrastructure at the Upper Harbor. Our positions on the following key items are what we are currently discussing with the POM as we negotiate towards an agreement: parkway closures and staffing, permitting, safety, security, management, and maintenance of the park. MPRB Park Police have indicated a need for closure of the northern half of the parkway from vehicular traffic at a threshold volume of CPAC attendees to ensure the safety of patrons in the area, to ensure effective management of anticipated high volume of traffic, and to protect the park. Staff views the parkway would need to be closed to vehicular traffic when shuttle buses are in operation, which correlates to events exceeding 1,500 attendees, with a potential frequency of 54 closures per season, May to October. The parkway and park would remain open and accessible to pedestrians, bicyclists, and ultimately public transit once implemented. MPR police have requested to control 2 closure locations at the parkway, as explained by Faith. Permitting, MPRB event staff and legal counsel view permitting for closures should be required per MPRB policy. Safety, security, management, and maintenance of the park. MPRB staff anticipate a higher volume of citizens in the park on event days. With a higher volume of park use comes a need for staffing response. The MPRB anticipates a need for additional staff to oversee the park space, and the MPRB and POM are reviewing options for our park police and or CPAC security staff to provide oversight as needed. And next steps, as I mentioned earlier in my first part of the presentation, next up for us would be a Parkway MOU amendment, and that's the Parkway MOU between the Park Board and the city. That approval will follow this presentation, or I should say request for approval will follow this presentation. Approval of that document would be subject to approval of a forthcoming POM MPRB agreement. The city has already approved and committed to the terms of that amendment on July 15th and 24th, as Hillary mentioned. And the MOU amendment provides a framework to move forward with the POM and MPRB agreement. Following the MOU amendment this evening, We anticipate return to the board in early September with a MPRB and POM agreement. In the meantime, MPRB staff will continue negotiations with the City and Port of Minneapolis to arrive at a contractual agreement. And with that concludes our presentation. Thank you, and we're happy to take comments and questions.
Thank you. So the next item on the agenda is actually a resolution. It's an action item. It's really related, but I think that the presentation really included a lot of information that we'll be covering in the next piece as well. So I think that the commissioners could feel comfortable really having any part of the discussion at this point, but we may learn more when we move to the next item. So with that, I will call on Commissioner Thompson.
Thank you. I know this project decently well from some angles, and I will be honest right now, I'm a little, what's the phrase I'm looking for? Alarmed with the number of events that are requested, as we all know, because I'm a dork about it. I'm a numbers person. There are approximately 140 days in May to October 1. I said October 1st, so maybe there's a few more, okay? Saying almost 100 events per year, half of which fall on the weekends. That means it's total, just a full volume. This is gonna be event center. We don't have, when I was on the planning commission, we talked about like the parking that you guys were talking about, and I'm worried about the park space. This is the vision of 100 events a year. Can someone speak on that?
Sure. So to reiterate, there would be the 54 commercial amplified sound permits. Those would be the ticketed events that would be put on by First Avenue and the Minnesota Orchestra. Those would be the larger events. The smaller ones, the other kind of estimated 45, those would be community events. So some of them could happen year-round in the multi-purpose room that holds 197 people. That's probably going to be smaller and much more low impact. We really haven't planned out what a community event schedule would be yet. We have to get the venue open first. So I think, you know, the larger events are really going to be just the 54 that we're talking about here. The smaller events, the 1,500, that might be a middle school band concert. That is going to be a much smaller impact that you may or may not notice as much.
That is very helpful to know, because I thought the 100 were all going to be the First Ave / Minnesota Orchestra. Then a follow-up question, the 54, again, there's only about 40 plus days of weekend, Saturday, Sunday, or I don't know, would that be Friday, Saturday, Sunday? Are they all anticipated to being those? Are they anticipated to be during the week? I'm challenged with the idea of that many people that far away from downtown with zero parking. And I just was curious what we had in terms of anticipating that kind of a thing.
Yeah, so it would be a mix of some weekend, maybe about half weekend, and the other half weekday. We think maybe a little over half might be the larger size, the kind of 6,000 plus. The other ones might be a bit smaller. There is a parking lot that will have the ride share and some limited parking nearby, but this is why we're planning the event shuttles, so that people can get in on a shuttle bus and then be able to leave quickly. So that we are able to accommodate it, since we don't have public transit here quite yet at this time, although it's been discussed. We hope it comes in the future, but at least for the foreseeable future, we will have the private transit option.
Thank you. I have one more question, because I do sit on the planning commission. We have had this discussion. It's like someone said over there that it's like building the airplane while you're trying to fly it, and all the things. And I get that about this massive project. What is then the anticipated shuttles? Are those City of Minneapolis shuttles, or are they event shuttles going from the downtown ramps that we have, I'm assuming?
Yeah, they would be private shuttles, probably like a Lorenz bus service that runs the buses at the State Fair. We have been in conversation with them, and they have helped inform how this would work to make sure that it would be, you know, as efficient as possible. Obviously, managing the State Fair, they move a lot of people, so this would be a much smaller event for them than what they see over there.
I appreciate it, and none of those has to do with parks, but they kind of all do because it's a park here inside of my district, so I appreciate the answers.
Certainly.
Commissioner Menz.
Thank you. Yeah, I have a couple of questions too, if that's okay. So what was driving the predicted usage of the facility? So what's the data that we're looking at?
The predicted usage of the transportation modes or of the number of events?
The CPAC.
The number of events, that was, the 54 events is what is in the noise ordinance. There's a certain type of amplified noise that's going to be allowed per the amended city noise ordinance. And so there are 54 of those permits that are available.
I guess what I'm wondering though is like the usage of the facility, like how much it would be used for with 6,000 people out of 8,000. Like what's predicting that?
So, I think that just the range of the types of concerts that either First Avenue or the orchestra would be offering. So not every concert's the same. Some tend to be bigger, some tend to be smaller.
So those two organizations are sort of making those assumptions about what would the revenue stream be coming into that facility.
Correct.
And if I'm not mistaken, all the revenue would be going to private. Like the park board isn't being included in any sort of revenue stream around here. We're just granting easements for this project, or can anybody speak to that just so that I understand a little bit better about
permits?
Yeah.
Permits. So the facility is on city land, and the CPAC venue is leasing the land from the city in a long-term lease arrangement. So what we are talking about is really just vehicles traveling on the park board or on the parkway itself, and not actually leasing parkland for any part of the venue operation.
Okay. And was there discussion around like with the parking lot? Why is there a limitation procedurally to having a parking garage there? I'm really leaning into the parking lot commissioner label that I have, but like, is there a way to get more people parking there if they would choose to go that way? I'm worried that people aren't going to go if they can't get there efficiently.
And so a parking ramp was discussed early on, however, at a cost of $30,000 to $50,000 per space. There's just that nobody is providing funds for that, and it doesn't. You can't make that kind of money on a seasonal facility. Unfortunately, surface parking is just much more economical at this time. This is why we are going to be providing a lot of communication with a ticket purchase to make sure that people know how they're going to get there and that there's not just unlimited free parking nearby. So as part of that, we're going to be really strongly encouraging the use of these shuttles so that people can park, but just take a shuttle to get over quickly because that will be really well coordinated for them.
Thank you. One final question that might be for Superintendent Schroeder. So we had a bonding bill or a bonding request to the state with a pedestrian and bike bridge that crossed the river. Is that bridge planned to go to this site, or is it on the other side of Lowry? I couldn't remember. Just thinking about access for my community in Northeast, Southeast, how's that going to be easy?
President Benny, Commissioner Menz, the alignment as demonstrated in the concept plan lands on the west bank of the river at 26th Avenue near the overlook, and on the east bank at 1720 Marshall.
But now we have trail connection through there.
That's correct. With the Old Wilson Trail, that's correct.
Which is beautiful. Thank you.
Commissioner Rucker.
Yeah, thanks for the presentation. Very informative. I can't wait till it opens up because it's going to bring a lot of positivity to the north side. With this venue, we used to have it over north where they would have a lot of concerts at Phyllis Wheatley, back in the day. And there were multiple concerts there. And I'm looking forward to these concerts that you guys are going to be having there, 54 or, to 100. It's going to bring jobs, keep people, busy, in a positive way. And my recommendation, for the first, maybe the grand opening, to have the Minneapolis Sound there, with the, the time and Jimmy Jam, Terry Lewis, and, because they were at Phyllis Wheatley and brought the community together. And one question I have with the parking, is there gonna be parking designated for motorcycles with a concrete slab?
That is a new question. I don't think we've gotten a dedicated parking for motorcycles yet. I think we may be able to look at like the limited parking that is available to see if a few extra motorcycle spaces could be accommodated. Maybe that might be a slightly different rate than a regular car, but we have not really analyzed that in great depth at this time.
That would be nice if we can get it for motorcycles as well.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Forney?
Sorry. Exciting but terrifying, I guess, is my response to this plan. I've been on the beginnings of this whole concept when actually the plan was brought before the legislature. And just to remind everybody, we were supposed to receive half of the parcel, and we're not getting anywhere near that. So, of course, that's very frustrating. And particularly considering that I feel, are going to be taking the burden of transportation as well as parking. So that's very, very disconcerting for me. So I don't even know where to begin as far as comments, but you want a higher level of staffing on our behalf. And I'm not sure if you know what our budget is like. We don't have the capacity. So I'm really concerned about that. So I guess what I'm trying to figure out is how do we generate maybe some revenue out of this burden that we're going to be carrying? And that's something. So I appreciate the $3 is going to community, but I feel as if something else has got to be there to support what we're taking on as far as responsibility. So just a couple of questions that also I have is, first of all, does anybody know what the height limitation is going to be on the United Properties building? Does anybody know?
Hello again, President, Commissioners. I can't speak to, there aren't approved development plans. The first in line is Dowling in Washington that's been trying to assemble affordable housing financing for multiple years, and maybe revising their plans. So there's a chance the height might change. There are a couple of revisions, but I would say through the coordinated plan it established through various, what land use approvals or if there were variances that would be needed, but there aren't any set heights in the plan. That's up to each development, but per the zoning code, of course. I can provide more detailed information following the meeting, and that's all the information I have off the top of my head tonight.
Well, I mean, because there's some definite height regulations as far as when it's adjacent to a water body.
Certainly, sorry
Right.
to interrupt, yes.
Right, and the thing is that, we're kind of banking on the whole fact that you've got a downtown view, and will there be a long-term one? Anyway, so that's something that's important, and I'm not sure that there's been a proposal to have lights and sound limited as far as, because we've got a bird sanctuary basically across from this. So that's a real concern to me. Anyway, I'm really concerned about the revenue because as far as our capacity, we're not able to do it. And I think that's a really big thing. And I know my time is going to run out here, but a couple of things. You're talking about a shuttle. Has anybody looked at the fact that we have actually what's called a water taxi and any shuttle as far as that? And I don't know if there's any landing that has been talked about as far as our park access to the river. And anyway, it's just something you might want to look into because I don't know how much parking there's downstream, but that's something that might be of value to look at. And then do I hear that the counterclockwise path, is that permanent? I mean, in the sense of, or just during events?
If I may, President?
Please.
That would be during events. So that is for the shuttle bus operations only. And so that is for the southern half, phase 2 of the parkway is included in that. The northern half does not have that circulation pattern, and the northern half is preserved for, during events when the shuttle bus operations are happening. The bikes and pedestrians and if there would be any other transit, as we had mentioned, would be able to utilize that northern part of the parkway adjacent to the park. But again, any circulation loops related to the shuttle buses is restricted only during when shuttle buses are happening. Otherwise, the parkway, north to south, the northernmost, goes beyond Dowling, and then the southernmost connects to 33rd. And so that is a two-way parkway. And so that would be, the circulation is only during shuttle bus operations for those size of events.
I was going to say, I'd suggest looking at permanently keeping it counter, so to avoid confusion for future patrons. I mean,
Oh,
park
I
patrons.
understand. I understand what you're saying now. Yes, thank you.
I'll ask my questions next.
Thank you. I put myself on the list here, so in this order, so I'm gonna go ahead and ask some questions myself. So 54 days, it's really the bulk of the summer weekend nights for sure. And, I think it is it's a good development for this location in many ways. It's going to be major activation. I guess the point of my concerns are more about how it limits other access to that parkland. And I have a few other concerns around that. I've said before that as the city makes these, does some development for sites turning over from industrial uses or, essentially brownfields, or I shouldn't say brownfields, but other developments in the city, it would be nice if there could be more of a, municipal grid supporting access to the venues and things, because right now it really does rely on our parkway. And having the parkway closed a lot, I do think is a problem. So I would also, I guess, say that I think there's been some questions about revenue. I do think that will be coming up in some of this next resolution a little bit, and then the subsequent agreements coming up about permitting and roles and responsibilities. So I would say that permitting for this closure needs to be robust, because I think we have to start thinking about the ways in which we lose other uses. And if at all possible, council, right, to charge for that loss of use, not just for coming back, making sure the garbage cans were emptied and all of that, repairing the grass and so on. I do think we need to think a lot about this, because we'd be really giving this park up for this purpose multiple times in the summer. The other thing I guess I would ask is if we do close that off, obviously we'd have access for emergency vehicles. That's being maintained through there. And I think I read in one of the documents that there is, in the parkway when this is not happening, there are some parking bays along there. Are there ways for people to access this space at all with handicap hangers? Or will they be accommodated in the parking lot? Or will they be accommodated maybe on the parkway that's accessible?
Yeah, I think that's something that we'd like to continue discussing. We have an ADA drop-off area, but not necessarily an ADA long-term parking area. There would be some ADA spaces at the Parcel 7 parking lot.
Okay.
So provided that someone has the mobility capacity to walk that third of a mile, we can certainly accommodate them there. But if there are other challenges, that might be something that we want to consider as part of our operations planning, to see if maybe a parkway space might be the best fit for some particular individuals with very limited mobility issues.
Yeah, I think that would be important. I've had some feedback. We did our refectory over at Badamakoska, and there's really not a lot of accommodation there for people that can't, that are driving to the location but have mobility issues otherwise. So another couple of questions come to mind. Where will the shuttles originate, and who can take the shuttles? Do you have to have a ticket to get on the shuttle?
So yes, there would be a ticket to get on the shuttle. That's how we can manage how many that we will need. And the origination location, we have considered a number of different options. From University of Minnesota parking lots, Dunwoody parking lots, and a couple locations in Brooklyn Center. We haven't arrived on a final location. That's kind of on our list of next steps to do.
Okay, so that's a concern as well. This park will be accessible by shuttle, but only people that are ticket holders. So it effectively closes the park. I'm just saying, let's be very clear and make sure we're being thoughtful in how we're approaching this. And maybe there's a big picture here that's important. Obviously, this is a cool opportunity, but I think we need to be thinking about that. And with that, I'll go back to my list and call on Commissioner Schaefer.
Yes, I guess the impact on parkland is probably the top priority as well. What I'd like to understand is there going to be an annual maintenance fund that they're going to contribute, not just per diem event, where it might be, a certain amount for maintaining the event itself, trash, et cetera, but actually infrastructure kind of long-term maintenance of the shoreline. I think that that's a reasonable request, particularly if we're cutting off parkland for areas of time. And I think that would be really interesting to look at the map to figure out, are there areas, and I'm sorry I'm not as well knowledgeable of the map as I should be to know this top of mind, but are there areas where a non-ticketed person can still view the concert or hear the concert, and does that affect our parkland? And do we have a control situation for that as a city or park staff for the non-ticketed people that may come or try to access, which is whatever, an outdoor concert? So I'd like to understand how that's affected as well. But I would really like to see a robust maintenance fund developed for this geographic area. And it looks like Cliff is coming up maybe with some answers to those questions. I'm not sure.
President Benny, Commissioner Schaefer, those are really good questions. So, one thing for us is to understand that the park will remain open during these events. If we look at it now, we see just limited access off Dowling. But if you squint and look ahead 15, 20 years, when the trail all along the river is intact, you'll be able to move up and down the river and, of course, access this parkland. As far as maintenance fund, we really appreciate a lot of the ideas that we're hearing today from commissioners. I mean, that's why we're here. And the discussion item is really to hear your concerns. And then as we, continue negotiations with Port of Minneapolis, that we can bring those concerns. Maintenance fund, we'll talk about that. We've got some standard language in permits for closing of the parkway, et cetera. That language is already adopted by the board and staff use that, but those are good comments. So we don't have all the answers that you have, but those are things that we can take back to Port of Minneapolis and the city.
Great, thank you, Director. A couple more comments. What was the thinking around, I believe that I heard that Port Authority would be paying 2 police officers and 1 MPRB coordinator for all the events. If you can give me some reasoning why Port Authority wanted to hire MPRB versus their own team to do that work, what the benefit, pros and cons were of that thinking?
I'm sorry, if I could help. President Benny, Commissioner Schaefer, so there are requirements, right, when we close a parkway that, per our agreement with Park Police, they have to be staffed by Park Police. And as we worked with Port of Minneapolis on kind of a access plan, we think about safety, reducing risk. Both the Park Police, our events coordinator, they sat in those meetings, and we really want to keep that area from from Dowling to the end of CPAC, free of traffic. It can be more of an open street, moving back and forth between the park to that event space. So again, we're following existing policies and procedures by making sure that that's Park Police that would staff those 2 closures.
Well, I think this is a different level of what we maybe, I don't know, but it's a different regularity and level of volume of people than we've ever had before as far as MPRB staff handling that. We've had the Medtronic Marathon and things like that. But that's just something that I think we should really think through carefully because obviously, we can amend those changes if we feel like, we can amend our policy if we feel like there's a better way to handle that we, in addition, have our folks there, but then there's another team of other people, that maybe our folks are working on the bike path, once we have people wanting to congregate and block a bike path to listen to a concert. So I just want to bring that up. those are the main two things. Oh, and then as far as the permanent closure, are we going to be using temporary barricades, or are we designing permanent? I missed that piece, and maybe
Yeah.
that's later design issues.
Can I?
I can speak to it.
Okay.
That's fine. President of NA, Commissioner Schaefer, thanks for the good question. If you are inquiring about the closure locations that Park Board would be staffing, our park police have indicated an interest in a manner of having permanent infrastructure there. However, that is a point of discussion for the Park Board and the POM. We also have discussed more recently that there may be benefit to incorporating temporary barriers and infrastructure to help support the movement of bicycle traffic at higher volumes. So there are some pros and cons to each option, and we are not settled yet on which that would be, but both have been discussed, and we'll certainly continue to talk those over.
And the cost is obviously the Port Authority for those.
That too would be
permanent
something
or temporary.
That also would be a piece of our negotiations moving forward, but we can certainly bring that back when we have more information.
And again, I'll just say one other thing in regards to the rookery. Is it directly across? I really feel like there may be some policy that we established as a board around times of year. I think we could think about that. That's all.
Thank you. Commissioner Olson.
Yeah, so, good discussion. I think around, access, I would say that when these are out, when going on, I would not at all say that this means that our park is not accessible. I think there are still plenty of ways for folks to get to the park and enjoy the park. But I do think that you mentioned about transit. That is going to be a really important conversation. Transit to this building is pretty awful, and I rely on it sometimes. And it's, certainly we can extend, maybe the 14 up to Washington, but maybe this is something as a board. Maybe we work with y'all and also, Metro Transit. Maybe this is a good situation where, we get a specific line that goes up the Parkway. And maybe it drops folks off right up there, and it could be a line that's seasonal, and we could have some sort of agreement around there. I think it's kind of an incredibly ripe case for that, right? You send folks, people will go downtown, they'll park, they'll take the light rail in, they'll do whatever they need to, and then they get on the line that goes up the Parkway, up the river, up to here. And that would kind of replace, and that is, if we're talking about accessibility, if we're talking about getting numerous amounts of folks here, I think that is something that we as a board, we as Metro Transit, and as the Port Authority, that should be the ambitious kind of future plan of getting folks there. Because as we all know, buses and transit are incredibly accessible to all people. Maintenance, yeah, that is, I think, a big concern. I'm wondering, or it is a valid concern. I don't know enough about the plan. I forget. Do we have plans for concessions there? Do we have plans for a restaurant there? Maybe that's something we reconsider, because if we're talking about, we will have a captive audience. We will have, thousands upon thousands of folks coming here. And, if we aren't able to find a way for ourselves to capitalize off of that and to generate revenue off of that, then that's kind of a failing on us. What we're seeing in Waterworks, what we're seeing in Owamni is just an incredible way for us to generate, action and folks visiting and profit on the riverfront. And if we can kind of have a good hybrid relationship that builds off of that, I think that is where we need to be looking at that as well. So, and possibly considering that for further. So that's the end of my time, but those are kind of my suggestions, and really I think we need to be involved with the Metro Transit, because that I think will absolve most of the concerns that we've been hearing here today.
Thank you. Commissioner Thompson.
Was I next? I don't want to get out of order. Thank you. You're the best. I am truly concerned because nothing about this feels advantageous to parks, which is what we are here meant to advocate for. And I want to just be clear, we could pull the map back up if we need to for Commissioner Olson saying that we are not blocking access to the park. We absolutely are, because there's one access point, and that's Dowling. And when you cut off the parkway, you essentially cut that off. And if people don't know that, we've got 94, you've got Washington Avenue, you've got train tracks, and then you've got the parkland space of the Upper Harbor Terminal. And I've talked with Ms. Alderst about this before, of concerns of emergency vehicles crossing the train tracks, which are still in use. So we are essentially cutting off the park, and it is extremely challenging, especially because it is in North Minneapolis and because it is in a space that has long needed access to the river. So hearing this is really hard for me to support this idea, and I appreciate all my colleagues seeing the forest for the trees as well.
Commissioner Menz.
Great, thank you. I'll be quick, or try to. First of all, I'd like to know a little bit more about a bird's plan, like the lighting plan, and thinking about, you know, what's been discussed in these discussions around lighting and the Mississippi Flyway.
Hello again. I can't speak in great detail to it tonight, other than to note that through both the original environmental review as well as an update to the environmental review, that has been considered, that needed to be considered as part of both of those in terms of the rookery specifically. I know that had come up. And then as far as lighting plans, that was a part of the plans that went through the city when those were approved through the Planning Commission. And then at this point, the facility would be in plan review, which means construction plans. And so if you have more specific questions, we can provide the lighting plan or the package that was through the Planning Commission.
That'd be great. And then also I'm wondering about the amount of usage too, if this will impact events that we have at Boom Island or something like that. I did want to comment just to my colleagues a little bit. I mean, downtown development is part of this process. Like we have to, we are a revenue generating enterprise. Like Commissioner Olson, thanks for reminding us of that. Even if it's not accessible totally to the entire city at that point, it's providing possible additional tax revenue, additional things. This is going to be a huge development site. And if we're thinking about downtown, which we should be invested in, we should be advocating for parks, but we should also be considering how that land usage plays into the redevelopment of our city. If I can have one more second. Just that downtown is not necessarily in the same place, and the riverfront, we've already planned for development and like parkland. Let's utilize that. Let's make the river that place, and this is a great opportunity to bring park and industry and revenue together. Let's find some ways to benefit off of it, and let's keep the river safe.
Thank you.
Birds too.
Commissioner Rucker.
Yeah, I travel a lot, and the reason why, me and my wife travel a lot is because we don't have this type of venue. Cincinnati, Seattle, we go all over just to find a concert to go to, so we travel. This way, people don't have to travel because we're going to have it right in our backyard. I just feel like it's a great idea, especially for the north side. It's a great idea to have. One question I have is for staff. How many events are held at Harriet Band Show? Can anybody answer that?
President Benny, Commissioner Rucker, we'll have to get that information. I know there are people here or this organization that could give us that. We just don't have that. What we can get those, the number of concerts at each of those.
Because there's a lot.
Yeah.
And there's not that much parking down at Harriet as well. So with the travel, I put my other hat on. I drove bus for MTC, and what all they did was when we had big events, Vikings games, whatever games it was, they just had the shuttle service. And I think that'll work, with the shuttle service to get people back and forth. And we're talking about, how big is this, 6,000 seat? I think Cincinnati's about 10 to 15,000 for theirs. So, that's all I want to say. I'm just saying this will be a great opportunity for North Minneapolis to have a venue like this.
Thank you. Before I continue down the commissioner list, I'd like to call on Council Rice.
Thank you, Madam President. I very focused on your comments tonight, Commissioners. I think they've all been very on point. So you're going to be asked shortly when this discussion is mattered to approve the Parkway MOU agreement, which would allow for the basically completion of this segment, a southern segment of the Parkway and the connection, and that will facilitate two access to the point. And the city's making a substantial commitment there. This is a big night in terms of hearing it. There's a big investment that Port of Minneapolis is making, the city is making, and you're now going to have, you've just had a parkway that got opened earlier this year and starting to open. Now you've got a big neighbor coming in. It's important to understand that we do have some experience as staff. A very, not a perfect analogy is US Bank Stadium. And we have the Downtown Commons Park next to it. And so the staff does have experience about what do you do, how do you operate next to a big event center. That park is also next to the Armory, which is frequently having events right next door. And so there's certainly, I would submit, we heard this last week, that our park system gets 25 million user visits a year. And when you add in the neighborhood parks, we're well over 30. And so I would say your staff does have a pretty good understanding of how to manage people and events and things like that. We do have parkway closures. I think we have been in discussion with the Port of Minneapolis people about this subsequent agreement, and that's absolutely critical. You won't be voting on that tonight, but part of this process is there will be an agreement. We had discussions just today with them. I think structurally, as you understand this, this facility is not on park board land. It's adjacent to it. And the reach of your ability to regulate that use is, we have some leverage. We certainly do. One thing that we've said is that we do believe, based on your current policies, that they're going to need to get a permit from the park board for parkway closure based on what the chief of police, our police chief has said, just intuitive management of how you run the system. If they're going to have this counterclockwise circular part in the southern part of the area, you don't want to let cars in on the north driving down and interrupting the flow of that. And there are going to be a number of people for these events. So it's a complex problem. That next level of agreement, I believe, is that going to go through committee, Cliff? No, I mean, okay, so you will in 2 weeks have a chance to again vet this issue before it goes to the board in early September. And so I guess what I'm saying is just a heads up as you think through this, there's still a couple times to catch up on this. I would just say to the point, Commissioner Thompson is right that the vehicular access to the park will be limited at these big events, but the pedestrian, bicycle, motor scooter, Commissioner Forney, the water shuttle access. I mean, there's other ways to get to this point, and who knows? I mean, maybe that's going to be the thing. So I just wanted to give you that as background. We are taking notes.
Thank you. Commissioner Forney.
Being limited time, I'm just going to rattle off a bunch of things. So is it West River Road or West River Parkway? Reminder, everybody, it is active rail next to this. What is the winter use and where is the winter use? As far as just, I think something that's very interesting is that the city will continue to own this property. Therefore, in a lot of ways, they are land banking for the future when this will be more activated. And see now, just to remind everybody, on our budget, two of the biggest items that are in question is Graco and Upper Harbor to just do basic maintenance, okay? And yes, our policy is right now only 2 closures of parkways per month. And just remind us, somebody brought up and everything about the Lake Harry Bandstand. Lot fewer people come to the Lake Harry Bandstand, but that community is just packed with cars, and that's free. 8,000 people. Anyway, I'm overwhelmed with concerns. Thank you.
Thank you, and I think we're getting close to wrapping this piece up here, and I just want to make a couple of comments. And I appreciate Council Rice reminding us that we don't have, this is private property, or this is not Park Board controlled property, and we don't have any land use authority. The city does. And there were some comments about noise and thinking of the rookery, and so I would encourage the city to contemplate a noise ordinance that takes into consideration wildlife, instead of just what time people wake up in the morning to go to work, or whatever the noise ordinance looks at primarily. And then, yeah, there, I received a text, there are about 80 events at Harriet in the summer, which is more for sure, but it's far fewer, honestly, and there's quite a lot of capacity around that area. And also a lot of people, there's a lot more population that actually is really close to that location, where this is kind of cut off. So, okay, with that, I think we can close this discussion and go ahead, and we have a resolution then. This is similar, so I think we'll need a presentation, but would somebody like to move the resolution for discussion? This one.
I'll move Resolution 2025-158, resolution approving a First Amendment to the Upper Harbor Terminal Parkway Memorandum of Understanding relating to the development of a parkway at the Upper Harbor between the Minneapolis Park and Recreation Board and the City of Minneapolis, lying within the Above the Falls Regional Park. Such approval is subject to and contingent upon reaching an agreement with Port of Minneapolis acceptable to the Park Board regarding the operation of the Community Performing Arts Center, CPAC, as it affects the adjoining park and parkway.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, and I think I would like to see the presentation on this part. Welcome back.
Good evening, President Vene and Commissioners. As stated, this resolution considers a First Amendment to the Upper Harbor Terminal Parkway Memorandum of Understanding related to the development of a parkway at the Upper Harbor between Minneapolis Park and Recreation Board and the City of Minneapolis. The City and the MPRB executed the Upper Harbor Parkway MOU in November of 2023 regarding the construction and operation of a segment of parkway known as West River Road North. That MOU transferred jurisdictional control of the parkway to the MPRB, which provides for the MPRB to operate consistent with standard MPRB parkway rules and regulations, except as otherwise defined in written agreements between the city and the MPRB to support the unique needs of this development. To facilitate the development of a Community Performing Arts Center, or CPAC, at the Upper Harbor, the city and the MPRB staff have determined modifications to the MOU, clarifying the CPAC's use of the Phase 2 parkway once constructed and addressing other necessary items. And I'll just walk through each of those here for you. Key modifications proposed in the MOU reflect development of detailed operations planning by the CPAC and impacts the relationship to the MPRB's management of the parkway. While this parkway road looks and feels like a parkway and does indeed add a mile of riverfront parkland to the Grand Rounds, the parkway is also a unique condition in that it is public right-of-way and the sole access to portions of the Upper Harbor site. Key modification 1 to the MOU involves no parking or idling on the parkway. While it has always been understood that buses and trucks could use the southern portion of the parkway for circulation, we want to minimize the impacts of that traffic upon the parkway and park trail user experience. Number 2, CPAC may handle parkway closure notices. Due to the many anticipated closures of the road surrounding the CPAC, the MPRB views it is appropriate for the CPAC to manage this responsibility. The MPRB will not restrict northbound shuttle buses on the Phase 2 parkway to access the shared drive for CPAC service and won't restrict trucks if the city builds Phase 2 parkway to support buses and trucks and the shared access drive is completed and operational when the CPAC opens. The MPRB wants to ensure that the planned circulation loop for buses is in place when the venue opens. We do not want buses or event traffic circulating on the northern half of the site adjacent to the park. And number 4, the MOU binds the parcels, and MPRB may record it on their titles. The MPRB wants to ensure future property owners adjacent to the parkway are well informed that this is a special roadway with special restrictions. The city will be responsible for resurfacing of the parkway. This provision aligns with our typical maintenance agreements with the city for parkways, and this parkway will be included in the new JPA involving our parkway maintenance program. The MPRB finds these modifications to be appropriate and beneficial to the MPRB's jurisdictional management of the Parkway Road. And again, to reiterate the next steps we talked about in the prior presentation, tonight's resolution requests approval of the First Amendment to the Upper Harbor Terminal Parkway MOU. This approval would be subject to approval of the forthcoming Port of Minneapolis MPRB agreement Council Rice just discussed. The city has approved and committed to the terms of this MOU on July 15th and July 24th, and the MOU amendment provides the framework for the Port of Minneapolis MPRB agreement to move forward. The MPRB, Port of Minneapolis, intend to continue negotiations towards a completed agreement and anticipate returning to the September board meeting to request approval. Thank you, and I'm happy to take comments or questions.
Thank you. Let's see. Okay, Commissioner Thompson.
Thank you. I don't have any questions so much as I just feel like to summarize our last conversation into this, as a longtime North Sider, and I have a lot of constituents who sat on this Upper Harbor, like, I don't remember the exact title, that was years in the making to decide what was going to be here. A lot of North Siders were worried with this venue site, even on the plan, creating yet another North Side amenity that really is for other people in the city. That it's a quick fix, it's a sore point for a lot of North Siders in general, that when development finally comes, it's not even for North Siders. I can't speak to all of that. I support, 100% support a concert venue. I recognize 100% that it is not our land use, and I think it should be there. But what, as sitting right here, what I can speak toward is the closure of the parkway and the access point to the park, which I think of sometimes as my neighbors, even if they, like a family trying to go down and have a Saturday picnic all summer long, will never be able to show up together. And I think of a lot of the, the single parents in my neighborhood with multiple children. What are you supposed to bike with kids and infants to be able to have a thing? And I just kind of unilaterally say no. So inside of that, I don't support closing the parkways. Right now, we haven't even built much of anything. If it turns out that this is actually something we desperately need to do, I don't know why we don't revisit that at a later juncture. That is my 3 cents. Thank you.
Commissioner Schaefer.
I'd like to understand more about CPAC handling all the parkway closure notices, and what that looks like practically. Does that not go out through our gov delivery then? What does that look like? Do you close it 2 days ahead of time, a day, 48 hours before to get the concert equipment in? I mean, I'm trying to understand if it's closed for this number of nights, 54, then how do we have an understanding of our patrons? Is it going to be another 100 days total? I mean, I'm supportive of this, obviously, but I just like to understand. We're giving up control here, and I just want to understand why and how often it'll be closed, or how much it'll be closed.
President Abene, Commissioner Schaefer, I'll try to answer the question here. In the original MOU that the board approved, the city required us that if we were going to close that parkway, that we would notice all the other property owners along this segment of West River Road. So if we even think about Thomas and Sons, they're on the north end of the cul-de-sac, we would have to notify them, as well as the other development parcels, which include apartment buildings. And then also the businesses that are hoped to come in on the south end. So what we wanted to do is, if we have our events, we would be glad to notice and send out those notices, right? And of course, they'd have to follow our process of mailing of, we'll work through that process to make sure it matches us. We just didn't want to take on their events and having to mail to all of their closures. So we'll supervise it, make sure it gets done, but it will be up to CPAC. So we thought that was a good change to the MOU.
Yep, that makes a lot of sense. Thank you for clarifying that. And then could someone speak to additional time versus just the time of the concert, that the parkway may need to be closed around each side of an event?
Let me speak to that. We would only be interested in even discussing closure just around when the shuttles would run, not before the shuttles start and not after the shuttles end. Just that window of time, which actually works better, we think, for the venue as well.
Great, thank you.
Commissioner Forney?
Thank you. So I just want to remind people that, as Commissioner Thompson indicated, there was a citizen advisory group that was convened regarding the park board portion, okay? And the overriding concern, as she indicated and everything, is this for North Side? Is what was communicated. And there actually was a paper that was done, and it was called Just Green Enough. And that's basically what the Community Advisory Committee chose to do, which we then called it for it to evolve. So I just really want to make sure that we be very sensitive to this. I appreciate that, yes, the opportunity to quote unquote capitalize on this is huge, but I want us to be respectful of the community and that they be involved in the voicing of that. I mean, we all know that in the next, quarter of a century, this area is going to be a huge change. And so let's not, shall we say, give away everything quite yet and make sure that their voices are heard. I'm very excited in a lot of ways about this venue, but I'll say it again, I'm also very terrified, so I just want us to walk softly and make sure that we dot our I's and cross our T's. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Menz?
Thanks. I think it's good that we're, kind of approaching this with some tenuousness. I do really want to reiterate, and I'm not sure where this, and what is the difference between the Good Neighbor Agreement and the MOU and then this amendment? So is the Good Neighbor Agreement the MOU that's coming forward?
President Benny, Commissioner Menz, thank you for the good question. So to clarify the difference between the agreements, I apologize, I'm about to lose my voice. The difference between the agreements, the Good Neighbor Agreement that NTH staff referenced tonight is the contractual agreement that I referenced in the same presentation. So that's a name that's being given to that agreement by NTH. And so that would be the agreement between the Park Board and the Port of Minneapolis that would define our operations and roles and responsibilities related to operations of the Port of Minneapolis and operations of the park, and how everything needs to work between us as neighbors. And so that is the agreement that we were presenting the framework for tonight, and that we would be bringing back to the board in early September to request approval of. The MOU that is before you right now is the MPRB City of Minneapolis Parkway MOU. And that was an agreement that was approved by the board in November of 2023. And that agreement between the Park Board and the city defined roles and responsibilities for management of the Parkway Road. And that was also an important document for us because it transferred jurisdiction and control of that Parkway Road to the Park Board. Tonight, the request is to amend that Parkway MOU with the parameters that I laid out during my presentation here. So that is an approval we're requesting tonight. And the discussion we provided would be the framework that we're working towards a finalized agreement, a secondary contractual agreement between the Park Board and the Port of Minneapolis. So they are both agreements that the Park Board would have, one with the city and one with the Port of Minneapolis.
Thank you for that. Sounds really complex, and I really appreciate your work on this, Ms. Aldrich. I guess I'm also going to reiterate that, I think I hear commissioners, and this is really important, that we make sure and that it's paramount that Northsiders are involved and benefit from this venue. I think that's really important. There will be benefit revenue-wise, but from usage as well. And I just want to reiterate the birds. Like, I think that there is a responsibility for us as owners of the land or stewards of the land and developing along the river, that that is a international flyway. And I am very concerned about the loudness and the lighting that'll be coming off of that building, which will be impacting parkland and will be impacting a very sensitive area with the rookery right across. And I think that as much as we need to advocate for development and growth, we really need to be considering how we're innovating in an effort to make sure that that flyway is maintained. We already light off fireworks along the river. We do all kinds of stuff along the river. And if we're going to develop the city around the river, that's fine. But we have to consider the birds and the nature that are accessing that international resource.
Okay, so, and maybe somebody asked that and I didn't catch it. So we have this resolution, but then there'll be the other MOU coming with the port or whatever, of Minneapolis in September.
President Benny, that's correct. So tonight's request before you right now would be a first amendment
Yep.
to the existing MPRB City Parkway MOU.
Yep.
And then in a couple of weeks, we would be coming back with, having finished negotiations, ideally with the Port of Minneapolis at that time, we would have a new agreement to bring forward to the board to request approval of. And that would be an agreement between the Park Board and the Port of Minneapolis, separate of this MOU.
When the second agreement, I don't think it's inappropriate, but see, since we don't operate the space really in the same way right now, you know, we don't really have data. So, you know, without this venue, and the venue's great, but without it, you know, there might have been pop-up activities that the park board would sponsor. We might have understood ways in which we could activate the space, but because we haven't really operated it, we don't really have a baseline. But I really am concerned about, I think this will really activate the space, but it will dominate the use to ticket holders. And I'm really sensitive to, and probably just push other users out during those times, possibly. Just because it will feel, I think, exclusionary and inaccessible. And I know you can bike and walk in and so on, but it'll just have a different energy. So it would be nice if when we're thinking about it again, if we could be thinking about ways in which we could understand or at least agree that we might want to look at anticipated numbers in the future and understand kind of our loss of use. Just because there's this behemoth that requires literally swinging gates shut onto the parkland periodically. So, okay. I see Commissioner Thompson.
Thank you. I just have one question, and I would like to also state and affirm what Commissioner Rucker said about Northsiders are very excited about this venue in that sense, but also wanting access. So, as a park commissioner, though, and I'm curious if maybe Council Rice can answer this, we're being asked to amend this from other parties, right? The city, and I understand the city's benefit. Is there any benefit in us amending this right now for the park board, for us to close off our own access point? I mean, this is the way I read this. Am I incorrect?
Council Rice?
Madam President, Commissioner Thompson, what I would say this agreement does is facilitate the efforts of CPAC and to create the amphitheater, which has always been the long-term plan. And this proposal has evolved. The city has come forward, CPED specifically, because they've been the project manager, and asked the park board to do this because the city's on the verge of making this $2+ million development to connect the existing parkway, which is a parkway to nowhere. It ends at about 36, and to connect to 34th, or 33rd, excuse me. And that's not a criticism, it's just this project has evolved. It's always been the plan to have an amphitheater there. And the city's view is that this is a necessary component to move to the next step. And so that's what they're asking tonight. And that's gone through the city council, and the city council's done their piece that they can do. And they're asking the park board to amend this agreement, and it is a unique relationship. And I would have to say, as your legal counsel, that the efforts that the city has done in terms of what they're undertaking to build the parkway, to build it to a grade that will sustain it and to maintain it is worthy of the park board's consideration. The more difficult agreement is going to be the next one. They see the group that's been working on this, and I think it's mostly come from the Port of Minneapolis side, and to some degree with CPED working on it, they call it the Good Neighbor Agreement. I'm much more of a Robert Frost person. Good fences make good neighbors. And that's what we have, that's what I'm hearing tonight from the commissioners, is that the city has their property, we have ours. How do we make sure that those interests are maintained? And that's gonna be the challenge over the next, I'm hoping that in 2 weeks, this board will have a draft agreement to look at, and you'll either give us a thumbs up or a thumbs down. I think you've raised more issues than maybe the staff and I've thought about, but we're writing and we're working on it. And I would say, in light of all this, just to add background to it, but not to have pressure, I mean, the Port of Minneapolis and to build the facility, they want to break ground by October, and they have a $12.5 million state grant that's in the balance, and it is a big deal. There's no doubt about it, and it's a big decision about how you handle it and what the relationship between the parties is.
I have one more quick question for Council Rice, because I recognize that these things are all coming together, funding as well for the venues and the people who will facilitate this. What is it that is necessary on our end to put these agreements in, the 54 closures, now? Is this just something that would just give people peace of mind to sleep better at night, to know that they could have that? That's the part I guess I'm not understanding, why we're doing this. Why it feels apples and oranges to me, because we haven't built anything yet, right? Or we've built very little. Sorry, there's my that's a question comment at the same time.
I mean, if that's a question, excuse me, Madam President, that may be something that the city representatives might want to, I think they addressed that initially, but if they want to put a finer point on it, I think this would be a good opportunity for them to say.
Is there some, I'm trying, that's the part I'm trying to wrap my head around. Why now? Why not giving? And I know I got beeped, but is there any, I don't want to stand in the way of getting things done, but I also am very hesitant to close our parkways before we barely even opened them.
Understood. President, Commissioners, the reason for, there are a couple of, I think, I'm hearing a couple of questions, so please help me through this a little. I wanted to address why now, which is we've been working diligently, many parties, as you can tell, and partners over the years to get to this point. So while I appreciate it is a lot of information, has been a lot of thought and a lot of work done together to get to this point. The reason we're at this point is the city has great interest in ensuring the success of this facility, particularly through operations. And so the reason for having this in place now is to understand that there is a transportation plan, the Advanced Transportation Management Plan, that is sustainable, that works, and that can carry us into the future. And so to have the potential street and parkway closures, so we talk about parkway closures, there would also be street closures to support that again, with the goal of safety on both sides. That, that the reason we would have this now is so we understand that it works. We have a plan in place, and then we're able to make sure that both, that all modes of transportation that are in that plan can function.
Thank you, that very much helps, and thank you for the extended time.
Yep, you bet. Commissioner Olson.
Yeah, I mean, so I think these MOUs, I think they are wise and drive us forward in a good way. It's kind of funny we're having these parkway conversations again, but I just came back from Montreal, where they have blocks upon blocks of pedestrianized streets that are next to a bunch of thriving commercial districts and thriving parkland and abut their biggest park, Mont Royal, and it works because they have transit. So again, I think if your concern is access, then we need to be talking about transit access, and we need to be talking about those partners and getting folks up there. And if we're concerned about an exclusionary atmosphere, it is completely unfounded and not based in the reality that we see in other North American cities. Those other cities, the city I was literally just in and saw with my own eyes, it was accessible to folks of all ages, all abilities, and it was dynamic and it was calm, because you do not have folks trying to drive through while people are crossing from the park to the concert, and it was relaxing, and we had places where folks can sit and gather, and it's really a positive thing. And this is an opportunity for us as a park board, for us as a city, to experiment with something positive, to experiment with something that has been proven around the world in so many places. And that's just, I mean, we kind of divert in a different philosophical, conversation, but aside from the MOU being like, this is working to make this project a success. But so, I do not share the same concerns. I think it is clear that everyone who's been presenting has been putting in a lot of thought that is, I think, well-founded and well-based in fact in situations that have worked in other places. And I think this will work for our park system. And I look forward to seeing it. So thank you.
President Benny,
Yes.
one more comment. Let me just say to the board, I felt this would be it is a very significant issue that deserves every minute that you've spent on it. But do note in the resolution that Commissioner Mance read that the approval of this by its resolution is contingent on us getting this second agreement. You should each exercise your own judgment about whether you want to move forward with it, but if we're not successful in reaching the second agreement, this first agreement is not done.
Thank you for adding that. Okay, I think that we've talked a lot about this. So let's go ahead and take this one to a vote. All those in favor of Resolution 2025-158, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? That motion carries. And with that, we'll move to petitions and communications. I'll call on Commissioner Schaefer.
Pass.
Commissioner Menz.
Pass.
Commissioner Thompson.
Pass.
Commissioner Forney.
Thank you, President Benny. So it's that time again that we need to acknowledge a few people in their birth. So I'd like to acknowledge our Chief Ohado, whose birthday is on the 10th. And I decided that I would bring forth some of my little fun things for my garden. So for Jason, I'd love for you to have that. And of course, our Assistant Superintendent of Environmental Stewardship, Barrick, also. I don't know if these are going to be good enough for that man, but anyway. And lastly, with great pride and everything, I would like to acknowledge our superintendent's birthday, which is on the 11th. Do I have that right? I have it right, okay.
Yep, yep.
Anyway, so happy
Thank you.
birthday to
Thank
you.
you.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to Al, Jason, and Jeremy. Happy birthday to you. Thank you.
Thanks, man.
All right. Is that it, Commissioner Forney?
Yes,
Okay.
I'm finished.
Commissioner Olson.
I will regale you with another thing I saw in my travels that I thought was interesting. I went to a wedding in Westport, Connecticut, and they had the wedding venue was at a country club that was formerly private, but then the city bought it. And anyone who is a Westport resident can use that venue and the club and the golf course, and it's right on the water and it's beautiful. And it got me thinking, oh gosh, do we have a private golf course that has a beautiful view over the water near our city that maybe eventually down the line we could get? No, I mean, Minneapolis. So it was just, it was really interesting to see how they took, this private land and made it incredibly public, and it was beautiful, and I was really happy to be able to experience that. And maybe there's some thought to be put in there for our own situation here, so.
Thank you. Commissioner Rucker.
Pass.
All right, and I too will pass, so without objection, I will declare this meeting adjourned.
I'd like to convene then our planning committee here at 7:13 with our secretary. Ringo, please call the roll.
Commissioner Elper, absent. Commissioner Rucker.
Here.
Commissioner Schaefer.
Here.
Vice Chair Thompson.
Here.
Chair Forney.
Here.
You have a quorum.
Thank you. I'll take a motion to approve our agenda.
Also move.
Okay, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
That action, oppose? That action carries. Okay, we then have 2 action items. If somebody would like to read our first one, I'd appreciate it.
Want to approve the minutes?
Oh, sorry. Yes, the approval. Oh, we don't have any minutes.
Oh.
I don't have any minutes. Does somebody else have?
Sorry, I just saw it on the agenda.
No, that's fine. Okay, so our resolution.
I'll move Resolution 2025-153, resolution granting a temporary easement to SAC Construction LLC, contractor for Metropolitan Council Environmental Services, for a sanitary sewer interceptor rehabilitation project located adjacent to Boston Field Park.
Any questions anybody has on this? Any questions people have on this? Any questions? Not seeing any lights. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That action carries. On to our next resolution. Somebody read.
I will move our next resolution, 2025-154, resolution granting access and utility agreement to CenterPoint Energy for an underground natural gas line within Minnehaha Parkway Regional Trail at Columbus Avenue South and collecting appropriate fees associated with the license.
Any questions that anybody have regarding this resolution? Any questions that people have? Not seeing any lights. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That action carries, and here we are. I'm adjourning the meeting at 7:15.
Not bad.
That was a record.